Pablo arrived home late in the evening after a long day at the office. On this hot summer evening in Madrid, he was looking forward to the coolness of his home. As he walked up the stairs, he felt a slight tension when he noticed that the light in the attic was on. Usually the attic was always closed and there was no light on. Pablo, mentally, why is the light on? Nobody goes up there. He carefully climbed the stairs to the attic, trying to understand what could be happening there. When he opened the door, his heart began to beat faster. There, in the attic, there was a large king-size bed that he had never seen before. On the bed were several postcards, brightly decorated with children's drawings and signatures. He took one of them and read, "We love you, Uncle Antonio." Pablo, shocked. "Uncle Antonio? Who is this?" Anger and pain flared up in his chest. He realized that someone else was coming into his house, using his attic, and possibly doing it behind his back. Pablo felt the ground disappear from under his feet. He took a deep breath, trying to calm himself, and placed the card back on the bed. Thoughts began to swarm in his head. He was trying to figure out what to do next. Only one thought flashed through his mind: to find out the truth. Pablo returned to the living room, feeling anxiety and worry overwhelm him. He picked up the phone and dialed the number of his best friend, Carlos. Pablo reserved. "Carlos, I need to talk to you. This is very important." Carlos, concerned. "What's wrong, Pablo? You sound worried." Pablo, sighing heavily. "It's difficult to explain over the phone. Come to me, please." Carlos promised to come as soon as possible. Pablo knew he couldn't handle this alone. He sat down on the sofa, clasping his head in his hands, and tried to collect his thoughts. All he could do was wait and hope that Carlos would help him sort out this confusing situation. An hour later, Carlos arrived at Pablo's. They went up to the attic together, and Pablo showed him what he had found. Carlos, looking around. "This is very strange. You should talk to Maria and find out what's going on." Pablo nodded, realizing that he had a difficult conversation ahead of him. He knew the truth might be painful, but he was willing to know it, no matter what it was. Pablo felt a heaviness in his chest as he entered the bedroom, where his wife Maria was sitting on the edge of the bed, scrolling through her phone. He closed the door behind him and, gathering all his determination, turned to her. Pablo, reserved. "Maria, we need to talk." Maria, a little nervously. "About what, Pablo? What happened?" Pablo took a deep breath and began to explain what he found in the attic. Pablo, trying not to show his pain. "Today I went up to the attic and saw a new bed and cards with the inscription, 'We love you, Uncle Antonio.' What does that mean?" Maria turned pale and lowered her gaze. There was an oppressive silence in the room for a moment. Then she began to speak. Maria, quietly. "Pablo, I wanted to tell you, but I didn't know how. You understand how difficult it is." Pablo, holding back his anger. "What is difficult? Is it difficult to tell your husband what is happening in his own home?" Maria, already with bitterness. "You yourself ruined everything, Pablo. With your work, with your constant absence. You forgot that you have a family, that you have a wife." Pablo felt Maria's words burn him. He always believed that he was working for the sake of his family, to provide them with everything they needed. Pablo, dully. "I work for us, Maria. For you and for the children." Maria, with despair. "You work for yourself, Pablo. You always think only about your career, about your ambitions. I was here alone, day after day, year after year. And Antonio, he was there. He supported me when you weren't there." Pablo froze when he heard the name again. Pablo, coldly. "Antonio. So are you really with him?" Maria, lowering her eyes. "Yes, Pablo. And this was not just a fleeting fling. He was here when I was bad, when I needed someone nearby." Pablo felt his world falling apart. He thought about the times when he was at work, trying to provide a better future for his family, unaware that during those times, his wife found solace in the arms of another. Pablo, with pain in his voice. "How long has this been going on?" Maria, quietly. "For several months now." I didn't want it to go this far, but you don't understand, Pablo, how lonely I felt. Pablo stood up and began to nervously walk around the room. He tried to comprehend what he had heard. Pablo, holding back tears with difficulty. So what now? What do you want to do next? Maria, gathering her courage. I want a divorce, Pablo. I can't live like this anymore. We're both unhappy. I love Antonio, and he loves me. These words pierced Pablo's heart like a knife. He knew that his life would never be the same. Maria, feeling that she now had nothing to lose, continued speaking, not hiding her rage and disappointment. Maria, without looking at Pablo, do you want to know the whole truth? Okay, I've been cheating on you for 2 years now. And you know what's the worst thing? I got a kick out of it. Every time Antonio was around, I felt alive. Pablo froze, feeling his world crumbling even more. He could not believe that Maria was capable of such betrayal. Maria, with a challenge in her voice, we made love everywhere, Pablo. In our bedroom, in the kitchen, in the bathroom, even in your office. And you know what? I enjoyed it. With you, I never felt anything like that. Pablo felt rage begin to cloud his mind. He clenched his fists, trying not to give in to his anger. Pablo, having difficulty restraining his emotions. Why are you doing this, Maria? Why are you telling me all this? Maria, with a bitter smile. Because you deserve to know the truth. You were always so busy with yourself and your work that you didn't notice how your family was falling apart. You didn't notice how I was dying inside. Pablo went to the window, looking at the night city, trying to find at least some solace in this darkness. He understood that their lives would never be the same. Pablo muffled. I thought I was doing everything for us. I wanted us to have everything we needed. Maria, with bitterness. You forgot the most important thing, Pablo. You forgot that you have a wife who needs you, not in your money, not in your success, but in yourself. You left me alone, and I found comfort in another person. Pablo turned to Maria, seeing her in a new light. He understood that this conversation was the end of their marriage, but he also knew that he had to do something to change his life and find a way out of this darkness. Pablo, with determination in his voice, You're right, Maria. I left you alone, but I'm not going to let this situation destroy me. I'll start a new life without you. Maria, surprised. What are you going to do? Pablo, confidently. I will find a way to get through this, and you must find your way too, but we won't be together anymore. These words sounded like a sentence, finally breaking off their relationship. Maria realized that their marriage was truly over and that she had to start a new life. The bartender obediently filled the glass. Pablo continued to drink, trying to drown his feelings in alcohol. The bar was filled with the sounds of conversations and music, but for him, it was all just background. The next morning, Pablo woke up with a heavy head and vague memories of the previous night. He felt even worse than yesterday, but knew that he needed to go home and deal with what had happened. Staggering, he headed towards the house. Approaching the door, he took a deep breath and opened it. Inside, everything looked even worse than he remembered. Broken things, pieces of furniture, scattered fragments of a mirror. This was a reflection of his inner state. Maria, sitting on the floor among the rubble. You're back. Pablo, without looking up. Yes, he's back. Maria, with tears in her eyes. Pablo, I don't know what to say. Pablo, hard. Don't say anything, Maria. It's too late. He walked past her and headed towards the bedroom where he took his things. Pablo understood that this page of his life was closed forever. He packed his suitcase and headed for the exit without looking back. Maria, quietly. Are you leaving? Pablo on the threshold. Yes, I can't stay here anymore. With these words, he left the house, leaving the past behind. Now he faced the unknown, but Pablo knew that this was the only way he could start a new life, free from pain and betrayal. Pablo returned to the house 5 hours later, feeling that he had forgotten some important things. As he approached the door, he heard muffled screams coming from inside. Wary, He opened the door and walked along the corridor, listening to the sounds. They became louder as he climbed the stairs to the second floor. His heart beat faster and faster, and his thoughts were confused. Pablo stopped at the bedroom door, from behind which came sounds of passion and pleasure. He pushed the door open and saw his lover making love to Maria. The sight before his eyes hit him harder than he could have expected. Maria, noticing Pablo, "Pablo, what are you doing here?" Pablo, furious, "How could you? In my house!" Lover, scared, "Hey, calm down!" But Pablo didn't listen. His rage and pain took over. He rushed at his lover, punching him in the face. The lover fell to the floor, but Pablo did not stop. He continued to strike until he began to scream in pain. Maria, shouting, "Pablo, stop! You'll kill him!" Pablo, without stopping, "You destroyed our family! How could you?" Maria tried to pull Pablo away from her lover, but he was too strong. Finally, having exhausted all his strength, Pablo stopped, breathing heavily. The lover lay on the floor, beaten and bloody. Pablo, clenching his fists, "Both of you, get out of my house. I don't want to see you anymore." Maria, crying, "Pablo, I'm sorry." Pablo, coldly, "There is no more forgiveness. Pack your things and leave." He left the room, leaving Maria and her lover. Pablo knew this was the end. He left the house, realizing that he now had to start a new life without them, but with the clear understanding that he would no longer tolerate such betrayals. This story illustrates the devastating effects of cheating and betrayal in a relationship. When trust is broken, it can lead to anger, violence, and the destruction of family bonds. Pablo, faced with betrayal, experienced severe emotional pain, which led to an outbreak of violence. This shows how important it is to maintain composure and look for peaceful ways to resolve conflicts so as not to make the situation worse. Maria, choosing the path of betrayal, lost the respect and trust of her husband, which led to the destruction of their family. Loyalty and honesty are fundamental values that should be the basis of any relationship. History reminds us that betrayal can have far-reaching consequences, and solutions to problems must be based on respect and honest dialogue. The path of vengeance and violence will never lead to true satisfaction or resolution of pain.